dude, if your mom was a hopeless romantic and you know deep down, it's like, I don't know why, but I like chick flicks. That's why. You know what I mean? Like, say, when you start to ponder on this particular realm and you really spend time looking at how you are and how they are, you will see the connectivity. Oh, this is why I'm like this.
Living for tomorrow, even though it's never promised. Jersey boy, repping the players like Tim Thomas. World in my pocket, 2 of wands up on the mirror. Got the heat, this the final shoot like Tyler Hero. Pop said I'm a god, I don't never need a hero.
What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. Happy Mother's Day, and in honor of the moons, the earths, our mothers, the nurturers, we'll be discussing our moon signs, and I'll be giving some insight on how you can gain about your mom through your own moon sign and position in your chart. So let's get into it. All right, y'all, I've just finished another run of my Ancestral Astrology course. I told you I'm going to be offering this all year long. So if you don't know, I'm offering an Ancestral Astrology course. It's on my website. It's a 3-week course. If you're interested in this, just email me with your name, your location, and your availability. There's no set time and day yet. I put the classes together based on who's available and what we can make do. So if you're interested, just reach out and we'll get you in there. It's really fun for me to teach because, like I said, astrology has these different pockets where you can just spend time there. So if you wanted to focus on ancestry alone, you can gauge so much information about self and your own experiences in life, because everything is karma. It's all connected. You have your own individual karma, you have your family karma, all of that. So naturally, one of the things we're able to highlight and take a look at is who you come from and who the people you come from. So parents and grandparents, it's super cool. All right. So one of the things you'll learn in the course is how to look at different family members, how different family members, grandparents, brothers, sisters, cousins come up in your chart, and then how to kind of see how you may come up in their chart. It's really dope. All right. So getting to the moon signs, I feel like the moon signs are a great layer of understanding, particularly because, remember, we all come out the womb. We come from 2 people, but we spend 9 months in the womb. So when you're really understanding what the moon is in astrology, that is your emotional capacity, your capacity to nurture. When you really study the moon, you see like, damn, a lot of this is influenced by who my parent is, who my mother is, who their mother is. So there's a thing that I notice with as being an astrologer, and is that, you know, when people have difficult relationships with the parent, there's a tendency to want to dissociate. But in the realm of spirituality, particularly astrology, the more you're able to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, the more overall understanding you gain, which allows you to see with this thing even more powerfully. So the first thing to know is that we can choose, for the sake of this video, we'll really be focusing on the sign here. But then there's other layers to it. It's the house, it's the aspects. All of these tell the stories. But your initial sign, moon sign, is given the flavor of your experience with mom, her expression to you. And it gets even doper when you have siblings and you have the different data to compare. So let's get to Aries. If you were born with a moon in Aries, what this says about your mom is that at the time she had you, she was in a self-invested part of her life. She was liable to have been chasing some type of dream, goal, been very self-reliant. Okay, let's just give an example. I've seen when this comes up in like moon in Aries in the 6th, maybe the 8th, the 2nd, it could show that mom is a hard worker and very self-motivated. And when you look into the story, you connect, you know, the ancestry, maybe they absorbed that from their mother, or they were forced to have to work harder based on circumstances with their mom. So when your moon is in Aries, your mom is a go-getter. You witnessed her be very motivated, self-reliant, and probably more masculine than other moon types. A great thing with a moon in Aries child is that rather than ask the father to do something they assume the father should do, the moon in Aries child in time knows that my mother is capable of doing the same thing. So that's moon in Aries. If your moon is in Taurus, moon is considered exalted. So it's a favorable position for the mom. This is more than likely showing that your mother is very security minded. Her initial relationship with you or desire for you is to have all the things that you need. So have your survival needs met. This can lead to children with a moon in Taurus being considered kind of spoiled or just having a lot more things. This is what I've seen is this is famous for a youngest child or even a first child. Because remember, the first child doesn't have to share much. So everything is given to them. But like I said, mom is very material minded. She could have a great job. She could be career oriented. She could also be Taurus like in the sense of earthy. There's an earthiness to her or overall resourcefulness. And that'll go with all the moons in earth signs. Mom is definitely resourceful, but how your mom is resourceful, it'll go to the values. So your mom might have some cool skills. Maybe she's like a homemaker. She can cook, she can garden, yeah, things of that nature. But mom is about results. There's a practicality here. Another thing I've noticed with the moon in Taurus is that that can people with this sign tend to have a love language of that involves gift giving. And this can definitely be a learned behavior. Mom could have been very giving to you, right? Which goes back to that idea of resourcefulness. If the moon is in Gemini, one of my favorites, Gemini gang, this definitely indicates that mom could have been a young parent, right? So teen parent, early teens. If not, it also, say your mom had you at 35. If you're the firstborn, or let's say there's an age gap between you and your second sibling, this still shows that mom kind of has a young mentality, or at its core, you grow with mom. You are growing with her. I've seen this a couple times. Say that moon in Gemini is in the 10th or the 9th house. You witness your mom place an emphasis on education through their own life. And naturally, it makes the child value education and kind of also easily absorb it, which leads to the next point. Mom is often considered intelligent, even if you can't see it. Even if you yourself, the person is like, I don't really see my mom as intellectual. Remember, you weren't them in school. So you don't know how easy things were for them. You may not have got to see them at their most studious. But if this is like a moon in Gemini, good aspect to like, let's say a Saturn or a Neptune, this shows you have a mom with a good imagination, a good intellect. Okay, and that definitely gets absorbed. And the same thing for a Gemini sun. That parent is passing on to you part of their intelligence, and you're going to live in the actualization of that. So for the moon in Gemini, your Mercury sign as well as your sun sign definitely is important. Moon in Cancer. Moon rules the sign of Cancer. So you guys got the nurturing mothers. Mother for you, remember, you could have multiple siblings. My mother says for this Cancer moon child, I want them to be covered in the blood of Christ. No, on a serious note, there's a strong emotional connection with the mother and the child. I would say that if you are Cancer moon, your mom had when I say an emotional pregnancy, she could have been in emotionally great spirits, but you, the embryo, you felt all of that. So let's say you have a moon in Cancer and it's aspecting Pluto, and you're a composed person, but your emotions are intense. That's because mom You know, herself could be really emotionally intense, but at the same time, her love for you is that way. So the Cancer moon is interesting because how the individual with the said placement acts out their emotional whims, it's a byproduct of how the mother loves on them. So ultimately, for a lot of us, we become our parents in a sense, but when the position is strong like that, like a Cancer moon, you really become your parent. And I could keep going with this position, but it's one where you really see the karmic connections once you have children, and you, let's say you enter into marriage, and you know those phases of life, you start to see the real connectivity between you and mother. This is said for men too. Okay, so if if your mom was a hopeless romantic, and you know deep down it's like, I don't know why, but I like chick flicks, that's why. You know what I mean? Like, so, like I said, when you start to ponder on this particular realm and you really spend time looking at how you are and how they are, you will see the connectivity. Oh, this is why I'm like this. All right. Moon in Leo. Interesting position. One of the more difficult positions. Not gonna hold you. When I first got into astrology, I was like, oh, Moon in Leo, that's fire. Based on how I was looking at it. But over time and actually listening to people, it's an emotionally demanding position. So, first insight about mom. Mom is, regardless of their sign, there's something very Leo-like about them. At the time in which they had you, they may not have been ready to be a mom. They may have been very much so into themselves. Now, the aspects and the house placement really reveal this. And like I said, as an astrologer, if you listen to people, there's a particular aspect. When people have Neptune in harsh aspect to their moon, so opposition and squares, people tend to feel like their parent didn't really want to be a parent and that they felt like a burden to them. With Moon in Leo, this can occur a lot, but at a deeper level, there can be a lot of manipulation here with the relationship with mom as well. Mom could use, charm or material items or just psychological ploys to control the kid somewhat. And last thing I'll say about this, because I don't want to feel like I'm jumping on anyone's mom, but these are insights that I've seen consistently. The person feels like they could, particularly for women, will feel like they are in competition with their parent. And then for men, mom can be demanding, could be picky about who you're dating and overbearing in certain senses. And just so you guys are aware, hopefully you keep watching. This is also said for the moon in Scorpio as well. So I'm not going to double back on all those things, but the same could be said for the moon in Scorpio. And then really, there's a layer to some of these things with all fixed moons. So that's some food for thought. All right. So we got Leo. Now we get to Virgo. Virgo's an interesting one. Very interesting one. You witness your mom being of service or working in some capacity. So, but now as the individual with it, it's really all about how you perceive the work that is being done. So I can just speak personally. My mom has always worked in the healthcare field. So being around older folks, managing older folks' homes, now, special needs people. So I was a young man around a lot of older people, in addition to being very close with my own grandmother. But I saw my mom taking care of older folks. And then naturally, I would take care of my grandma. So I related to like work is like, oh, we're all helping here. Each one teach one. And naturally, I went into a teaching profession and now I'm in counseling, helping each other. So Moon in Virgo is really about how you relate to it. On the other foot, if this moon in Virgo, let's say, is in the second house and it's receiving a harsh aspect from Saturn, oh, mom is a worker, but she could be complaining a lot. You can hear her complaining. Physically in the house, there may be things that make you feel like, oh, we don't have enough. Real poverty can be experienced. So the Virgo moon, in that sense, that this is where you want to be careful of. Virgo moons are always what I see talented people, not even bigging it up because I'm one, but there'll be people that have this talent present. In this second example of what I'm using, the Virgo moon may never grow or be conditioned to believe that they can extract value from what is unique or individual about them. It becomes I have to be a worker mentality, which you don't want that. Especially, like I said, if your moon is going to end up in an earth house. So the second, the 6th, or the 10th. So it's really about that relationship, or how you see and perceive the work that mom does is important. Then, of course, you're going to have, this could indicate that your mom is critical of you. Okay. And I've seen this definitely a generational thing. So so if you are a Sag, Neptune and Sag, Virgo moon, yeah, you couldn't do nothing right for mom, right? They were trying to suppress that Sagittarian impulse and all of that. But I digress. Moving on to Libra here. This is one where I see a lot of times this can be the firstborn or the firstborn of, let's say, the firstborn boy or the firstborn girl. And how it'll go is that the person will have a particular relationship with the mom. So if you're the only girl that comes from a family of boys, it's like, okay, me and mom are really close. And then if you're like the only boy in the realm of girls, it could be like, oh, that's my special child, favoritism, things of that. But these people confide in their parents a lot. They can look to them to make decisions for them. And this is where, depending on the parent's sun sign and all of that stuff, it can work or it can backfire. So say you get a Sagittarius sun with a Libra moon with a Leo mother. It's like, hey, I want to make my own decisions here. Back off a little bit. Things of that nature. So the person tends to value the parent's insight or approval. How they go about getting it or displaying it, it'll vary via, the individual's chart. Scorpio. So we know that the moon is typically debilitated, considered debilitated here, and it's understandable. But I love telling Scorpio moon parents, don't worry, this doesn't say anything bad about you. So in one regard, it shows that during the pregnancy, emotionally intense time. Okay. In the next vein, overall, mom could be just an emotionally intense person. Thirdly, if mom has heavy Scorpio or 8th house, you being born a Scorpio moon, you're just showing you who you're an offspring of. So it doesn't mean like, oh, we're going to have a terrible relationship. No, it means that like, you're my child, so I'm more geared towards understanding you. Okay. So I say all that to say this. You have lots of Scorpio moons with wonderful relationships with their parents. Of course, there's going to be things that we have to work out, like little power struggles that'll occur. But overall, I would say for some, your parent can mean you well. When your parent might not mean you well, like I said, is when I've seen squares with Leo energy, maybe this occurring in the 5th, 8th house aspect, 11th, 8th house aspect. There's a detachment. Of course, you want to pay attention to Pluto, right? So I would say for the Scorpio moon, you got to discern for you in your experience with mom, does this person have my best interests at heart? Are they really self-invested? And part of that is where that Scorpio power comes from. Seeing the ugly in those we really care for. So food for thought there. Sag moon. Sag moon. So what I've seen with Sag moons, I'm the father of a Sag moon, is that typically you may, like I said for Scorpio, you can come from a Sagittarius type of parent or mother. Okay. Also, actually, because Sag is the teachings of the father, this can have influence for your father as well. But in regards to mom might, aspects are going to be very revealing of this, as well as the Jupiter position. Mom might have tapped into her Sagittarius energy, or she might not have. And then you're being born a Sag moon in order to help her and the family expand in that direction. So Sag moons and fire houses, first 5, 9. This is very typical of that. It's like a lot of action here. It's like you're living for your parent or things that they didn't do. And this can also be if the moon is aspect Saturn, as well as Neptune, things of that nature. So in a sense, there's a wisdom you gain from mother. This could be directly or indirectly. So Sag moons tend to have like a moral outlook. We all do bullshit in life, but if a Sag moon comes from a mother who has a pretty good moral compass, that is religious, faithful, they're gonna avoid a lot more bullshit because they have that kind of thing like, I know better. All right. So judgment is key. Judgment is key with the mother, and as well as how they exercise that Sagittarius energy. Capricorn moon. There's a couple things. I love this one. This represents like a planned child. Your mom's baby, where it's like, all right, I want this baby. I know what I want from this baby. And yeah. So the child, the individual, you're being born into some type of structure. Or check the aspects. It could be the opposite of that. You're here to put in more work than mom put in. You're here to learn from their mistakes. It's actually like in the sense of like they had limitations on their self, and now you're working within the karma of that. It gives you shit to overcome, chip on your shoulder, all that good jazz. But on the other hand, like I said, can represent a child being born in a structure, a marriage, a parent who has achieved some things, a well-known parent, a celebrity parent, a parent that can help you get away, get ahead in life, right? They may believe in tough love. Okay. So you'll have multiple siblings. The Capricorn moon one feels like, well, I have a sibling who's a Cancer moon. And I definitely feel like mom is more affectionate to them. Sometimes, like I said, a lot of this stuff boils down to where your parent was in their life. And then, like I said, kind of like what they want for you. So a lot of Capricorn moons, parents are trying to teach them tough love. Aquarius moon. Now, interesting one, takes me back to my beginning of my astral studies where I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. This can denote individual with the Aquarius moon being a mixed child. So, a la, let's say a child, you yourself, you may look black, but your mom is completely white. Okay. A type of thing where people look at you and look at the mom and be like, oh, that's your kid, right? That's how the Aquarius moon kind of tunes into, things. Also, you can have like a really Aquarian mom. You can have a mom that's out there. Think of like an astrologer mom. No, I often see that with Pisces moons also. No, like an out there mom would be like in the old sense, like a hippie, but someone who's into alternative thinking. So an Aquarius moon type might get homeschooled by their mom, right? Let's say they have like a Capricorn sun, Aquarius moon. They may get homeschooled by the mom, things of that nature. So mom thinks differently. There can be a detachment, and there's something I notice here with this position too. The need to embark or leave home early, right? And the circumstances will differ, but that could be karmically something you inherit from your mom. Maybe she left home early and then you have to do the same, but that's definitely something I've seen happen with Aquarius moons. Last but not least, we got Pisces. And as I was saying before, a lot of times when a person is a moon in the 12th, sometimes Uranus in the 12th, but then the other good moon, moon in the 8th. Yeah, I'll get the understanding that, like, okay, your mom or your ancestors were definitely spiritually inclined. And, you could be the one that's here to kind of make some sense of this, use this as a form of power, or transcend any mistakes that they made, previously in the spiritual regard. Pisces moon mom is also another one in the mutable sense, where I've seen people say, like, I was more like my parents' parent, or I had to really grow with my parent. They weren't necessarily the best for me early on. Could definitely show a sensitive mother. And what I've seen a couple of other times too, a very, not just like an astrologer or a tarot, an occult minded mom, but an overall faithful mom, a faithful. Like, so if your mom is a Christian, she was a very faithful person. And honestly, when I'm sitting with charts sometimes, y'all, I could get the impression of like someone's ancestors that prayed a lot. It comes through. And yeah, a lot of us are the prayers of our ancestors, man, and our parents. And so I always tell people, listen, religion may not be for us or in your path. If it's for your parent, let them live. Because as long as they're yielding the proper energy and not being close-minded, more than likely those blessings or, karmic experiences are helping you. I hope everyone enjoys their Mother's Day as well as they enjoy this episode. Let's chime in, talk about our moms, who they are to us. If you need any readings, check out my website, GeminiBrown.com. Check out my book, Astrology of the Matrix. Till next time, peace.